this video, we want to talk about exports. We begin with our supply and demand graph with consumer surplus and producer surplus, and what we're looking at is just the domestic supply and demand. Note that the domestic price is 50 and 5 units are sold. Now, we look at the world price, and the world price is actually at 70. It's quite a bit higher than the local price. So if the local producers were allowed to also sell in the international or the world market, um, you would actually have a demand curve that would slope downward like this, and then it would have a kink in it and at 70, and then it would go flat. And that's basically illustrating the demand for the rest of the world at that price. So you have this new demand curve, which includes both the domestic and the world demand, and note again, it has a kink in it or a bend in that curve. Now, if domestic producers are allowed to sell in that world market, the price would move from 50 up to 70, and that would be the new equilibrium. The domestic producers now would be able to sell 7 units instead of 5, but also note that the domestic sales would actually drop down to 3 because the price would be higher. That local demand curve is downward sloping. At a price of 70, you'd only have 3 domestic sales at that higher price. Now let's also take a look at this area right here. This actually becomes new producer surplus because they're selling those 4 units into a new market. In addition to that area, we note here that the exports are now 4. 7 minus 3 is 4, so they're selling 3 in the local domestic market, and they're selling 4 in the international market. The other thing that happens is this area here, let's divide this up into our areas A, B, C, and D. We know that this area here, B, used to be consumer surplus, and now it is producer surplus. So where the producer surplus in the before condition was just C, it is now C, B, and D. The domestic buyers end up paying a higher price, and they lose B to the sellers. The domestic sellers gain D from the world market and also gain B from the domestic buyers. So the producers end up with this whole area here. We see how value is actually increased when we have the ability to export.